And I know you mentioned Genie and cost reporting. Can you tell me a little bit more about as to how Genie integrates with cost reporting?
Yeah, so one of the decisions we made that's a bit unique is we used our own uh, AI BI dashboard product to ship a cost dashboard. And what that means is it's actually a Databricks asset that each customer owns. And that means that they can use it as we've made it by default to see costs, or if they want to tweak things, they can, and it's really easy to customize. And one of the reasons we made that decision is it sort of helps bridge the gap between out of the box reporting and customization. One of the things I saw, at a lot of other vendors is they'll have some beautiful charts you can click around in the app. And then if you want to ask something more specific than what's in there, they're basically like, well, here's a dump of all the data, good luck. And even making it match that beautiful UI you have is a difficult process, let alone customizing it further. The way we've done AIBI dashboards, you can just hit edit and edit that SQL and make one little tweak if you don't care about this thing or want to exclude it or want to rename it. Those things are available to you. And so that makes it real easy to make that cost reporting specific to you. A step further you can go because it's built on AIBI dashboard is Genie is incorporated in it. And so Genie is our generative AI powered product where you can ask natural language questions and it will help write the SQL and give you a response. And so it's pretty cool. Right off the bat, we've been working on it for a number of months here, and it answers a number of the questions about cost very well. And we're working on making it better and better at understanding synonyms and sort of like what specifically folks are asking for when they use these financially centered words. And so you can go into Genie and say, hey, how much am I spending on SQL? What's the trend line? How much will I be spending 6 months from now? And Genie will write those SQL queries and let you see it. As with any generative AI product, I always recommend folks double check that SQL. Hallucinations are possible. Sometimes it uses the wrong verb or something like that. But it's something that's getting better all the time. And we're really excited about that making this data more accessible to people that maybe aren't as strong in SQL or that just want to do the job quicker. And rather than having to write the SQL from scratch, you can ask the question and then just see it produced pretty quickly.
One last question is, what are you doing to prevent costly mistakes, right? Because to this point, we've spoken about, hey, how can I plan? How can I understand my costs? But I don't want to get a $10,000 bill by accident or by surprise. So, what efforts is Databricks doing to really help users to prevent those costly bills in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. No one likes those costly mistakes when someone accidentally runs something and it costs $10,000 they didn't intend to. Obviously customers don't like those mistakes. We at Databricks don't like those mistakes either. They're really not good for anyone long term. And we would prefer that customers are able to spend money on things that deliver value for them. And that's how we all win long term. And so we've been looking at where are these mistakes happening and how can we limit them. One thing a lot of folks were worried about was with serverless, which is sort of ephemeral in nature and can scale, that it would scale up and spend a lot of money if you, for example, wrote a bad query that did a Cartesian join on two huge tables and scanned them both. So one of the things we've been looking at is, how can we avoid that? And we've put certain limits in place. Not everyone knows this, but serverless actually has limits to how fast it'll scale. We've kind of put some governors in place so that it won't spend more than this. So it's not possible to run a query and then 5 seconds later have a $10,000 bill. And the only way we'll let customers spend more is if they explicitly ask to take some of those limits off and they say, we want to sort of spend at a higher rate. We understand what we're doing here. Take off some of those guardrails. All of the Databricks products need to have those safety nets in place. Most of them do today. And over time, as we discover more places where users can make mistakes, we're putting more of those limits in place and controls. And it really, one of the debates is, should these be knobs that customers can control or should these be automated? And we've been leaning towards making them more automated so that you don't have to learn all these knobs and every time you do something, tune everything. We want it to just be like, hey, no one meant to spend $10,000 doing that. Or, we used data intelligence to say, hey, this user never runs that type of query. Are they sure they want to do that? And so we call it single mistake mitigation. We want to avoid someone coming into Databricks and making a single costly mistake by putting these safety nets in place. And so that's been an area we've been releasing features on each of our products. And, you might hear about individual of those releases that are coming out, but it really has kind of been a theme across the board to help make sure that customers aren't regretting spending events, that really all the spend they have on Databricks is intentional and something that it was an investment decision to invest in data, and then hopefully had a positive return for them. It delivered value to their business in a way that they care about.
So you mentioned controls that Databricks has put in place. What if to limit that spend? What if even that spend is too high for me, the limit set by Databricks? Maybe I am just starting, maybe I'm just trying to figure out serverless and its value, and I'm afraid of making those mistakes. Or someone in my company, say a user, maybe I'm not afraid of my senior developer doing this, and this is actually a real conversation with a customer from Kythera Labs, which is my day job, and we had a customer who was like that, like, hey, I have senior devs. I don't really care what they're doing, right? Like we trust them, but we have some interns. What So when it comes to serverless, what are you doing to empower that little bit of that self-serve experience when customers do need that knob?
Yeah, so serverless has been one area that we've heard lots of feedback from customers about how they want to use it or what they're worried about. And we've really been taking that to heart and using it to build features that we think strike the balance between avoiding costly mistakes or someone spending money they didn't intend to and limiting access too much. You kind of have a spectrum there where you could err too much on one side or the other. If you make it impossible to spend any money, then people can't get their work done. If you make it so that no one is ever limited in their work, well, they can spend too much money. Where's the right balance to find in there? And one of the features we've been working on in the world of serverless that helps this is the budget policies feature, which allows you to create policies for groups of users. And we've been discussing various ways that that can be applied to make sure that when you have a company with multiple types of users, you mentioned senior and junior developers that maybe have different levels of maturity and the different levels you would trust them to spend money, how can you more precisely give them limits and controls? And so more announcements to come there, but that's been an area we've been talking about. How do we find the right balance between control and freedom? And then how do we make it as easy as possible? Some companies cloud vendors find a balance between those things, but it involves a lot of tuning and signing forms and things. And we want to make it simpler than that. So it's not this really complicated procurement process in order to do. We want to make it simple to sign up for Databricks, bring users on, have them use it in a way that they get value and really can't make mistakes that they regret.
In what areas do you think Databricks helps customers more when it comes to cost management compared to some of your competitors? And on the flip side, what is an area where hey, this is something that we are working on making it better?
Yeah, so when it comes to how Databricks does on the cost management stories, we actually just kind of look at, hey, what's our CSAT? What do customers feel? CSAT's customer satisfaction score. You kind of on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate us? And where do they feel we are and where were we before? One thing I've seen is that it's really been improving over the last year or two, that CSAT's been going up. And we still have a ways to go to be 10 out of 10. what I used to hear was things like, hey, I don't understand what's happening. I don't have a tool to do this. Now folks have that tool and the questions are getting more mature. Or I sometimes hear questions like, hey, why don't you have this feature like AWS has? And I'm like, we're like a newer, smaller company. We don't have quite everything AWS has, but we might have it soon. And so, we've really been looking to sort of invest our energy wisely to build the most impactful cost management tools. And over time, we'll continue to invest and build things that will make it easier and easier. We've also been working on training our field teams that work with customers about these topics and then how to use the tools and how to guide these conversations so that that team that you talk to every week is working with you to say, hey, I see you don't have tags in place here. Let's get those in place. Let's work together. Let's help you break down your costs based on the projects that we talk about. And so I think the combination of our investment in tools, our investment in training our field will really help increase our maturity. I view our goal as being an industry leader in cost management. We don't want to just have the good enough tool. We want to say like, hey, we have this advantage in a way that we've seen what all of these companies that have been around longer than us have done for cost management. We've seen mistakes they've made and times where they had to restart and try again because that feature didn't work. We can skip all of that and go straight to sort of like very powerful features. And so I actually would like to see us get to a point where our tools are starting to be industry leading and folks are saying, actually, your cost Genie is the best natural language way to understand my costs, or, your integrations with third party vendors is, the most seamless, etc. And so we're continuing to invest in that area. I think you've seen a lot of progress in
I
2024
have
and yeah, and hopefully you'll see even more in 2025.
big improvement, I think, this year in terms of what's available, and yeah, I think I agree with that.